My guest today is Winthrop Smith Jr. He's a former executive vice president of Merrill Lynch, and he is out with a book called Catching Lightning in a Bottle. Win, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Win, for people who know you and are familiar with the history that you have with Merrill Lynch, they are probably familiar with the fact that Catching Lightning in a Bottle, the name of your new book, A History About Merrill Lynch, is actually taken from a line that you wrote in now a rather famous letter that you wrote to investors of Merrill Lynch near the end of the beginning of the financial crisis. The first question I have is, going into that kind of the final weekend, you had Lehman Brothers and Merrill Lynch, who were obviously both looking for buyers, and it turned out you guys got Bank of America. Lehman Brothers didn't. The rest is history. What was that like for you?
It was devastating, not just for me, but I think all the families at Merrill Lynch, both the current families, the past families, and we always believed that Merrill Lynch could survive crises like this. In fact, we had. But when we saw the leverage of the firm that was taken on, and we saw the attempts to save it by raising almost $50 billion, it was unfathomable that Merrill would have to be acquired by Bank of America.
Were you very much in the loop on all of the negotiations going on?
No. I was out of the loop. But I will say that John Thane, who's gotten a lot of criticism, was very outreaching to me and to other members of the old guard. He had lunches with us, we conversed, and he gave me the courtesy of calling me the eve before to say he wanted to talk to me the next morning. And that was, great courtesy, which I certainly appreciated.
What did he end up saying?
He basically told me why the transaction had to occur, and he felt it was the best thing for all the Merrill Lynchers.
How'd you feel about it?
I agreed with him. It was a shame it came to that, but if he hadn't sold it to Bank of America, Merrill could have gone the way of Lehman, and it would have been far more devastating to everybody.
Right, and a lot of people know that the Bank of America shareholders probably weren't the most excited. Merrill shareholders probably were a little bit more excited than they were. Just real quickly, the difference that you saw between shareholders of two different very big banks.
Well, I think what history is going to show is I think John negotiated a very good deal at the time, a $50 billion sale. Of course, it was stock and the stock went down, so it was worth far less. But I think the Bank of America shareholders in the future are going to see that this was a marvelous acquisition and created great value for the bank as well.
Largest banks have only gotten larger since the financial crisis, maybe something that a lot of people aren't familiar with. Your book is a lot about corporate governance. We'll get to that a little bit later. But when you look at the scenario, right? Big banks that are too big to fail are just getting larger. What are the kind of red flags that boards should be looking at in the future to avoid the type of problems that we did see in the run-up to 2008?
Well, I think that's a very good point. Some point in time, I think there are diseconomies of scale, and you really have to wonder, can you manage? Can you stay on top of it? Now, a CEO can't be a micromanager, so he has to have a good team around him. And you have to have that balance of creating flexibility and innovation, but also having control. And that was one of the strengths of Merrill Lynch up to 2001. We grew, we prospered, we innovated, but we had very tight controls. And importantly, we had a very good set of values and a culture that allowed us to manage through different times.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much. For The Street, I'm Joe Deaux.